Hello and welcome back to the NOTCAST, episode 253 today. It's the 1st of December 2022. Today, 6 years ago today, I was watching The Cure at Wembley Arena, supported by the Twilight Sad, bringing their 2016 World Tour to a close. There aren't going to be so many NOTCASTs in the next couple of weeks because I'm going to be on tour seeing those two bands again play in places across the UK, and hopefully seeing some lovely faces that I have missed and not seen for a very long period of time indeed. Today I am talking about the most recent studio album released by The Wedding Presents in September 2016, alongside with 4 albums of re-recordings and alternate studio recordings, 4 albums of radio sessions, 6 singles, an EP, a couple of live releases, a compilation album of James Bond covers, and the studio album released in 2016. The album is called Going. This is one of my favourite albums. In fact, although I think I prefer Take Fountain, or more correctly, Take Fountain has a bigger meaning to me personally, I think Going is a better album. And by the way, here is a fistful of the releases. The band have been very busy during this period indeed. So I am going to go through them in a somewhat chronological order. It is difficult, honestly and accurately, to really kind of detail this period in a way that does it justice, because the band were so busy. They don't tend to take huge breaks, and the period overlaps with the previous Wedding Presents studio album, Valentina, which was released in 2012. The first single that was released from the album is Two Bridges, which was recorded with a new lineup featuring Patrick Alexander on guitar and Catherine Wallinger on bass, alongside a previously unreleased studio recording, a cover version of Reckless Eric's Whole Wide World. You will know that song if you have been paying it much attention to the world, because it was a novelty hit in about 1980 or thereabouts. And the version of Whole Wide World was taken from a recording in around about 2005, 2006 maybe, with Simon Cleve on guitar and Terry DeCastro on bass and backing vocals. This was released in 2013, and the very astute of you will notice it has the number 13 on the cover of the single, because it was released and sold at the merch stand on the band's 2013 Hit Parade tour, where they were touring the 21st anniversary of the Hit Parade album and series from 1992, which was 12 singles, 1 released a month. Sounds familiar. I know another band that are going to be doing it again, but also following up with the number 13, kind of implying this was the 13th record in the series. It was just a little bit late. Two Bridges was the first new song that was released by the band after the Valentina period, and it's an absolute banger. I've got to say, it's one of my favourite Wedding Present songs, and it was completely re-recorded for the album, but this was the first fruits of that particular album's existence, and it ties in with the kind of overlap with the Valentina era. There was also another release which took place, this time in 2015, and this was the Cinerama re-recording of Valentina, presenting the previous Wedding Present studio album in the Cinerama style, featuring flamenco guitars, woodwind, brass, Italian lyrics, huge slabs of ripping off Ennio Morricone and Pasolini and all that type of stuff, and Italian romantic comedies from the 60s about people that fell in love across a crowded fountain in the middle of Rome, those type of things. I think the Cinerama re-recording of Valentina is really good and really underrated. If you're a fan of The Wedding Present, you really should get into Cinerama. I think they are, to use a very British word, spiffing, but there you are. And Valentina was re-recorded. The recordings were made in 2014, I think in Provence, at around about the same time actually that The Wedding Present in their then current lineup was starting to produce the material that was going to convert itself into the Going album. Following the recording of Valentina and the release of it, the band did a Mark Riley session, released here on a 10-inch single, which came out in, I think, 2018 or thereabouts, mixed and recorded at Maida Vale on the 14th of July 2015. This is a 4-track EP featuring Catgirl Tights, You're Dead, The Girl from the DDR, and Wow is one of my favourite songs, of course. And there's also as is The Wedding Presents Want, a CD of that release on there as well. We also had, around about this period, the release of Cinerama's first official live album, Live 2015, recorded at the Islington Academy, also known as the Marquee, on the 6th of June 2015. And this features appearances by Danielle Wadey and Melanie Howard, both of whom have later appeared on and are members of, or have been members of, The Wedding Present. This is the CD and DVD that features 18 songs recorded in 2015 by the band. There was a Cinerama 7-inch single, The Girl from the DDR Live, which is on the Come Play With Me label. And with that, what you could hear was the band picking up new styles and experimenting and broadening their palette. So they had a new lineup again. Patrick had left the group. I think Samuel B. Pierce was on guitar, and the band went into the studio and recorded what is to date their most recent studio record, called Going Going. Going Going takes its name from a poem by Philip Larkin of the same name, which details, as all Philip Larkin's poems do, a sense of immutable and non-specified sadness alongside a very particular Britishness about emotional repression. This is one of my favourite albums. I think this is my favourite wedding present record. My top 3 wedding present records, by the way, are Going Going, Take Fountain and Sea Monsters, and all of them, each one of those albums has a very kind of loose concept around the end of a relationship and the start of another, and how those things work, and possibly that's where I particularly gravitate to. This is also the first double album. In the days when people thought about records as being double albums, this was 4 sides of vinyl over 80 minutes. It's a monster. 20 tracks, the longest of the Wedding Present studio albums by far, and one of my favourites. It's a song, well, more correctly, it's an album where all the songs have their names taken from places in the USA. Each one of the films that appears on the DVD that comes with the release, there's a DVD and a bonus CD there, by the way, features footage shot in the location that the songs are named after. And it's really a culmination of the styles from the band previously. So it's also, by the way, David Gedge's favourite wedding present release to the date of 2016. And it features 20 songs, again, each one of them that track the lifespan of a relationship, from the moment where there's a moment where you think, shall I stay or shall I go? The moment of decision or indecision, where one makes that refreshes that decision about a relationship coming to a close, and you know what happens when you make that decision. When we've all been in that moment where, and I particularly remember it a couple of times in relations to specific relationships or specific employments, there's a moment where you're not sure about something, and then all of a sudden your mind is made up. So the first single, of course, Two Bridges, is the song that talks about, well, I'm stuck between two bridges and I don't know which way to turn. I remember very specifically walking down a corridor in Barking, of all places, late one day at work, and going, yeah, this is it, this is over, this is the end of that particular working relationship. Or perhaps actually another time I was walking between a train station and my destination, and I was listening to a Frank Turner song called Recovery, and again there was a moment that formed in my mind where I was like, right, I need to make a change around this. I distinctly remember the end of one particular relationship, a couple of moments when I spoke with somebody on the phone and their response was not what I expected at all. I'd got a new job, and their response was not, oh, that's fantastic, you've got a new job in the middle of a recession. We were in the middle of the 2008 recession, just at the start of that. But their response was, well, couldn't you earn more money? And it's like, hang on a second, I've got another job. You know, things haven't got better, but I've got another job. And I realised, no, that person is actually more about money than they are about, you know, making sure that I was safe and secure. And I thought, no, that's the end of that. That's the end of that relationship. And going, and the whole album is around, you know, the end of a relationship, and the start and rekindling of it. And it's a romance that's tracked by a travel log. So it starts with a breakup, and then it goes through the process of uncertainty and insecurity, and then ends with the conclusion where that relationship is repaired. It's a culmination of the band's previous styles. So you can hear from styles and influences from Watusi, from Saturnalia, from Bizarro, Sea Monsters. And bearing in mind that the band had very recently toured in 2014, they toured Watusi. In 2016, they toured Saturnalia. They played Sea Monsters in 2012, and I think they played the Hit Parade as well that year. So you can really hear the influence of playing those songs and getting deep into the guts of those songs again for the first time, and then taking the best elements of those and taking them forward. So, for example, Watusi is an album that really shows a kind of surf rock influence, and you can hear that in songs like Bells and Broken Bone and stuff like Bear and Secretary. You can hear the use of the broadened palette with piano and keyboards and things like that in a number of the songs as well. You can go back to the crunch of something like Sea Monsters with Secretary, and Sea Monsters also, by the way, the last track on the album is called Santa Monica, and it's very, very reminiscent of the track Octopussy from the last song on Sea Monsters, which is built in a very similar fashion on a rising and falling circular motif alongside a relatively static vocal line that suddenly breaks out into a huge chunk of noise before returning back to a calm. It is, I think, this album, Going is their best record. Actually, they've done lots of good records, but I think this is the best one. And it opens with 4 instrumentals, which is the first time that the Wedding Present have done a major set of instrumentals, almost post-rock in approach. And those are Kittery, Greenland, Marblehead, and I'm going to pronounce this wrong, Sprague, which I think is like Prague, but with an S in front of it, so Sprague. And it's difficult to talk about the lyrical content of those, but what you have is 4 very distinct, very measured tracks which move between peaks and troughs, highs and lows. The same kind of approach of quiet, loud that the Pixies also used, and a number of other post-rock acts, such as, for example, Explosions in the Sky, This Will Destroy You, Hiroshima, Good Old Mogwai, those type of things used, where there's moments of quiet and then moments of stunning noise and sound, which knock your fucking socks off. And those 4 tracks kind of operate as a suite of instrumentals that bring you into the album itself. Before you get to track 5, the end of side 1, is Two Bridges, the aforementioned single, which has now been re-recorded and rethought and redesigned. So it starts with a relatively fast, short 2.5 minute kind of rampage through a vocal, and then has this huge extended coda that lasts for a few minutes of just riffing on the same thing, and you suddenly go, not just about rock or music, but this is almost math as you go, right, so you're at 16, 24, 32, stop. It's that kind of thing where it's built around a repetition to the point where actually the repetition starts to allow you to explore the intricacies of each one of those parts. It's something similar to when I think about things like listening to the Chemical Brothers or Underworld. It's on the basis of it, the core bed of the song is relatively simplistic, but it's built in such a way that actually that simplism, that simplicity, that repetition actually becomes almost hypnotic or meditative in the content. So then you start to explore actually the intricacies, the tiny extra details that sit inside every verse, and it really makes you pay attention to the song. And it's a wonderful experience, and that's actually shot through like a stick of rock all through the whole of this album. So the Two Bridges title track, by the way, really shows the influence which Patrick Alexander and later the band's guitarist Samuel Beer Pearce had upon the group, being influenced where you could really see how actually a lot of people think, Wedding Present is just David Gedge and some sleeper blokes, and actually it isn't. It's a band where each member brings their own ideas to the fore, and then they're shaped through the lens of David. So it's always this different, and it's always the same at the same time. It also, by the way, Two Bridges introduces a wonderful little trick which you'll hear a number of times in future wedding present songs, and that's the idea of using clapping as a way of creating punctuation and percussion in a song. So there's this wonderful breakdown where in the middle of a verse he says, I'm caught between two bridges, and I don't know which way to turn, in the middle of a verse, and it breaks up the song, and it makes you realize it's not just, you know, a drummer and a bass player and a guitarist just going dum dum dum. They're thinking about it, and they go, actually, we're prepared to break the rhythm of the song, stop, introduce a little bit of clapping, and then start again. And you realize it's not just people have really thought about the arrangements and the structure of the songs and how that's best going to operate. It's really, you know, a very handy kind of trick. Track 6 on the album, or if you're in your vinyl years, side 2, track 1 is Little Silver, and Little Silver is one of my very, very favourite wedding present songs. In fact, so much so I have written an essay about Little Silver, which is in an upcoming book written by I think Richard Horton, I think it is, around, you know, the stories and the songs and the way that wedding present songs have soundtracked people's lives. So there's the lyric to Little Silver goes, you look so shocked when I said I'm leaving, but I think I shocked myself even more for what it's worth. And there's this wonderful line, which I really, the first time I heard it, and I think they were playing it live at Tunbridge Wells in 2014, was the first time I heard it. And there was just a line where it goes, and there's no point telling me to forget it. My life's no longer based on what you will allow. Those days have gone. It was just time for me to go. There's nothing else you need to know. There's no point in questioning or anything. There's nothing. We've reached a cul-de-sac and I am never coming back. This is what's happening, and it's everything or nothing. Everything or Nothing, by the way, the use of that line ties in with Eon Productions that make the James Bond movies, which David Gedge has referred to multiple times in his work, including the compilation album released in 2020. Let me just get it out of my pile of stuff here. It's called Not From Where I'm Standing, which is a line from Golden Gun, and I think it's in You Only Live Twice or Thunderball as well, actually. And it's the name of the production company that make the James Bond films. It also is, I believe, related to the Fleming family crest, the concept of everything or nothing. But the song Little Silver, to me, was really, really important. And it came to me at just a point in my life when I absolutely needed to hear a song like that. The song where it's, you know, my life's not defined by what you will allow. It's about what decisions I make, the decisions I make, the path that I follow, the things that I do, my decisions. So remembering we're not responsible for what other people do, but we're responsible for how we respond to certain situations. And Little Silver was a song that just absolutely was a gift to me at the time when it came out, because I was wondering about, and I was thinking about a certain set of circumstances in a professional context, and thinking about, well, do I put up with this for money, or do I actually change my employment? A very serious decision to take. And then there was a point where, no, actually, it's not about what you will allow. I don't need your permission to be me. I don't need the permission of anybody else to be who I am, what I believe in, how I'm going to behave. I'm not going to let other people define me, because remember, other people want to manipulate and control anybody else so that it serves their own purposes. So if your life is defined by what somebody else will allow, then you're starting to think, well, actually, I no longer have the agency and control over my own life. And I listened to it, and suddenly it was like somebody had got that beam of light had poured in through the window of the church, like in the Blues Brothers movie. And I was like, my life's not defined by what other people decide it's going to be. I get to choose my path. I get to choose whether this situation works for me or not. I don't have to be in a situation where I'm unhappy. I can move beyond that. I don't need anybody else's permission to do it. And it's very, very important to me to do so, and to be able to answer to myself. Now, one of the things about being an adult, I think I'm an adult, don't tell anyone if I'm not. One of the things about being an adult is that you get to make your own decisions. You know, you close the door, and that world that exists around you, chock full of CDs, that's a world which we create. That's a world where we're answerable to ourselves, that we're comfortable with. We don't need anybody else's permission for that. Yes, we're defined by money, but we're defined by circumstance, but we're not sat there going, do you think I should have my hair a certain way? I want to have my hair a certain way. What's to stop me from doing that? Absolutely nothing. And that's where it says, my life is no longer defined by what you will allow. Isn't a song that really was very, very important to me at the time that it came out. And it was just a song where every so often a song comes to me and I listen to it, and it's almost like that song just suddenly, I'm not the same after that song comes out. And that's happened a couple of times in the past decade. It happened when I first heard What Is This Thing Called Love by Editors. I remember I was listening to that in 2013. I was on a lunch break and I was walking around London on the banks of the River Thames, where the sea was as grey as a badly made cup of tea. And I just had to stop and sit down, and I was like, oh my God, it's like somebody who took the words out of my brain that I didn't even know I was thinking and turned them into a song. There's a song by Catherine Joseph which came out earlier on this year called What Is Keeping You Alive Is the Thing That Makes Me Want to Kill Them For. It's a wonderful song. I had the same moment. Again, I was walking through London the day that it came out and I heard it. And the first time I heard it, and I was like, I was walking between Islington and Liverpool Street, and I was like, I have to stop and focus totally on this song. Little Silver had that same effect upon me, where I suddenly almost like I came out at the end of that song and I was like, I was different. I had a revelation about who I was and how I was seeing the world. And I was able to articulate and understand myself better as a result of that song's existence. Not every song on this album has the same effect, by the way. The next song on the album is called Bear. And Bear is a brilliant song. I heard it, I think the second time it was played live. Again, Tunbridge Wells Forum 2014. And it was just after I think they played Shake It for the first time in absolutely ages. And Bear is a song about the loss of a lover, but also about the loss of a friend. And the lyric around, it's much more than I can bear. And there's this line about, you put up with me nearly to the point where you'd be really at your wit's end, and now I'm answering. And it's the thing is, there's so many lyrics in this album that are very eloquent and descriptive of what's happening. So Bear has as its chorus, the line about he'll be answering me when I call, and he'll be telling me to walk tall, and he'll be catching me when I fall, and I'm not sure I can bear to be without you. I know where I'd rather be tonight. And although the idea is you go, well, what's Bear about? Well, actually, it's about, I'm not sure I can bear to be without you, but you don't get a choice about that. That happens whether you like it or not. And it always reminds me of when I went through some of my breakups, and as you already worked out, I've been through quite a few over the years, hence why I like The Wedding Present so much. This song is not just about the loss of a lover, it's also about the loss of a friend. It's about the moment where, if you've got somebody that you're in a relationship with and that relationship is important to you, that person is effectively your best friend, and then you lose them, and it's like, well, you end up losing both a friendship and a relationship, and it's very powerful and very dangerous and very painful to be in that situation. And I've been in that situation more times than I would like to have been, is the diplomatic management speak way of describing it, I think. So Bear, again, I heard most of these songs when they were broadcast on the Mark Riley sessions, or the studio versions of most of these songs from the Mark Riley sessions, although often the first time I heard them was when they were being played live in front of me. I saw The Wedding Present an awful lot in this period. They were touring an awful lot, always near me, and so I saw them a lot, it's fair to say. They're easily in my top 5 bands in terms of bands that I've seen the most. And so there we have it. So the next song on the album is Secretary, which almost everybody hates. And I think if there was a ranking of Wedding Present songs, the song Secretary would probably be the least favourite song by almost all of the fans. It's very reminiscent of Bizarro, and George Best, and to an extent parts of Sea Monsters. It's quick, it's fast, it's crunchy, it's got a daft lyric around, I only ever seem to get through to your secretary, I haven't heard you from a while and I'm really getting worried. It's a very simplistic, straightforward, almost dumbed down lyric. Great live, worked brilliantly live, it's great fun, but on record, not so good, I think it's fair to say. Thankfully redeemed by the next track, which is Bird's Nest. And Bird's Nest is a song about where somebody's from the other side of it. So Bird's Nest and Secretary have a similar kind of theme that runs alongside them. And that theme is really around insecurity. It's around, okay, so you've split up with somebody. That's part of the narrative of the album, of a romance that is disintegrated and then repaired. It's around, I've heard you've gone out on a date with somebody else, and I'm not particularly pleased about that. Secretary is kind of like the dark side of the green-eyed monster, the thing where it goes, what's he really doing? What are they really doing? Who are they really talking to? What's really going on? And then Bird's Nest is the one around, here's a story, a man walks into a bar, it's terrifying because he's trying something different and he hasn't got very far, so he buys another Merlot, and then he doesn't feel quite so bad. And it's like he's finally stopped doubting his decision to give up everything he had, because he knows this is nothing to be afraid of, and he chose this adventure for himself, and something good is just about to happen. These are brilliant little words, brilliant descriptions. They're little vignettes or character studies about individuals. As someone said, heartbreak is my bread and butter. Going is really great at understanding, people's motivations and their experiences that sit alongside them. And it's a song about going to that point of going, right, so I'm going out, I'm going to go and meet somebody. This is new, it's scary, it's weird, and my insecurities are absolutely screaming in my ear about it as well at the same time. Very effective in the context of a song. Problem is, most people go, well, I want to hear Brass Neck and Kennedy because there are the old songs and I know them and I like them. And I'm like, where have you been? When President are writing great songs right now. Pay attention. It's not that difficult. And of course, the next song, side 2, like track 5, is Kill Devil Hills. And Kill Devil Hills, what a great name for a place Kill Devil Hills is. I guess those are the hills where you kill the devil in old mythology, right? It's got just a wonderful idea in the lyrics, the idea of the thought of, and it really reminds me actually of Nothing Compares to You, which I've mentioned for two NOTCASTs in a row after the previous one, with the idea of every arm reminds me that it's not you. The concept of going, although maybe that person has met somebody new, somebody different, at the same point, there's a thing in their mind that goes, the shape of their bum, the shape of their face, the shape of their hands is different from another person. All it does is remind me that that person isn't the person that I still love or I still have feelings and thoughts for. And when you go through a breakup, you're in that situation where you kind of sat there and going, right, so I'm on a date with somebody new, maybe this person will work, but at the same point there's a voice in your head in the background that goes, this person isn't the same person that you so the thing you're trying to get back to, you can't get back to that. It's about something new with somebody new in a new circumstance, and I could put my arms around every boy that I meet, but they only remind me of you, like a ship without a mast in the middle of a sea, that type of stuff. It's powerful songwriting, and so few people do that, And then the next song is Bells. Bells is brilliant. Oh, I love it. If it had been on Bizarro, everyone would be like, incredible song. But because it's not on Bizarro or Sea Monsters, most people go, never heard of it. Bells has this wonderful chorus, the idea that, the idea that that's what I'm thinking, I should have heard alarm bells ringing, but I'm not, but I'd already, and it's like the idea of going, an alarm bell ringing. So when you're, let's say, it's been a while, but if you go on a date with somebody and you there's things about, and you get close to somebody, and the closer you see them, it's like when you get nearer to an object in a video game, they're more fully defined as you get nearer to them. good old-fashioned computer rendering. But then what you're realizing is the closer you get to them, the more you're seeing features that you're not necessarily sure about. And he said, I should have heard alarm bells ringing. That's what I'm thinking. And, you know, I've been on a date with people that politically have been very, very far away from me, or have said things that have been, you know, racist and stuff. And I've been kind of going, yeah, alarm bells are ringing in my head at that point around those things. And then, but as Bells kind of says, sometimes when the dick is hard, the mind is soft. And the concept being that, you know, you don't necessarily grasp that there are alarm bells ringing there. It's a great song, but it's also, it reflects something which exists at the end of every relationship, is that moment where you kind of go, right, so it's a, you know, that, let's say that person split up with you and that person's chosen to end their relationship with you, and then in your mind it's like, right, I need to get to the next relationship. I need to get to the next stage sooner rather than later. It's almost a race. Actually, there's an invisible race sometimes when couples split up between the, you know, the person that left and the leaver and the left, and the leaver is kind of, right, so, you know, I'm ahead of the game. I know things you don't know, and I've made a decision, and that decision impacts you, and it's a decision you're probably not happy about, but there you are. And then the left is kind of like in a situation where you go, right, my world's been turned upside down, but both of them are. I think there's, certainly in my mind, there's an element of going, I want to have a boyfriend or a girlfriend before the person that left me has one. I want to prove that, yeah, I've moved on, that this person is now, you know, out of the game, and I've moved on. Other people find me attractive. Sure, there's an element of, you know, building up and bolstering the battered ego that tells you that why would people do that? You know, why would somebody leave me? I'm bloody lovely. And then look, this person who I've only just met agrees with me. That kind of thing. But it's really a, you know, an idea about the competition element of survival, and the idea of going, well, screw you. Actually, well, don't screw you, but, you know, I don't need you. You've made that decision. Well, tough. Somebody else has decided that, you know, they want to be with me. So that's your loss, sucker. You can't go back and change your mind now. And there was a time when I was in a relationship, and the person I was in a relationship with, this was a very long time ago, couldn't decide whether they wanted to be in a relationship with anybody, and the anybody was me. And so certainly there was one year where we split up a lot that year, and it was only when actually I'd, you know, after a few weeks, I'd be like, well, I've met somebody else, I'm going on dates, you know, that's going quite nice, and she's quite different from you, and all that. And suddenly she was like, I've changed my mind. And I was like, I'm not sure that works quite like that. You know, I might not be open to going back to a relationship with you because you've changed your mind now that you realise that other people can meet me and stuff. I'm obviously much younger, both of us, and more immature, and in my position, you know, not amazingly sensitive about things because I was in my early 20s. But that's the way that it was, you know, and there was not very much that you could do about that. That was just, you know, we were trying to make sense of life one day at a time at the time. But maybe I should have heard alarm bells ringing. That's what I'm thinking. Next track is 56, which is again about what happens next. You know, the concept, you've got bells, but then each one of the songs has a different place in the narrative structure that moves the cycle of a romance coming to an end and then tracked into being repaired, going through that cycle of it where you kind of try the people and you realise that's not really me. You know, 56 is one of those songs where it details that moment after you've started something with somebody else and you kind of go, I'm not sure about this. I'm not quite sure where I'm going with it. And we've got Fordland as well. What great names some of these songs are. You know, called Durham if it was made in the UK. You know, the scenery has changed and the road's my only friend, but the route got rearranged and now I don't know where this is going to end. Again, it's one of those things where you kind of go, right, so I'm travelling, and the idea of travelling through America as being a metaphor for travelling through the stages of the end and start of another relationship, which then takes you to Emporia, which is a very underrated song about going through the moment where you go, right, so I'm going to commit to this, I'm going to see how it goes. The next song is Broken Bow, and Broken Bow is a song that I really loved. They played it a lot. Pretty much every show after they wrote it, until at least the album came out, featured Broken Bow on it, and it has this wonderful line about the pain of failure is so much greater than the pleasure of success. And this big chunky riff that sounds like a spaceship taking off or something out of a science fiction movie. I absolutely love it live. It's absolutely brilliant. Then you've got 5 songs actually. Lead or Lead, depending on your point of view, which again is around someone coming to the realization that actually once you've tried to go out with somebody else, or maybe moved on a little bit, you realise actually nothing compares to you. And then we've got 10 Sleep opens with just walking and talking, realising what I have missed about you, because without you I have no catalyst, and it's no coincidence that everything makes total sense when you are back with me. Oh, can you hear the cat? We might let him in a minute. We've got Wales, which is track 18, which, although it's called Wales because there's a place in America called Wales, it's a concept album with, or a concept song with Welsh lyrics. And then we have Rachel, which is the nearest thing to a single on the record, actually. Just this lovely kind of soft song about lying on the grass, and it ends with the line, lying here beside you is where I belong. Listen, Rachel, they are playing our song 1 + 1 = 2. And I was just like, oh, what a beautiful, beautiful song about just lying next to somebody and having that moment where you're either holding hands or you're talking. You just go, yeah, this is my place. This is where I want to be. Hang on, I'm going to have to pause this to open the door to let the cat in. And then the final song on the album is Santa Monica. Now, little bit of record trivia for you. There are 2 mixes of Santa Monica. There is a short version that runs about 6.5 minutes. It's on the double vinyl and on the CD. There is an extended version that is only on the DVD, and it features an extra 4-minute instrumental coda right at the end. It runs to over 10 minutes. It's the longest single wedding present song that there is. I think Santa Monica is an absolute goddamn classic. I love it. And I've been very lucky to see the band play it live. It's reminiscent to me of Octopussy in terms of the concepts and the ideas that it's got behind it. The fact it's built on a spindly ascending descending riff that's quite heavily influenced by bands like Magazine, Public Image Limited, and of course the track Octopussy from Sea Monsters. It also has a lyric that's very similar to the last track, Octopussy. There's a line in here where he sings about, and I just need to find the exact words, which we've got here. There's something quite inspiring when all is said and done about sitting here admiring a setting sun. And when you returned my smile, it all became worthwhile. I can't begin to describe the happiness that I have found, and I can't begin to describe the loneliness when you're not around. You make me feel brand new. That is just what you do. And I know you're wondering whether this time I'll stay. Well, believe me, we're together. And I can safely say, wipe away the tears. The story ends right here. And there's that line about, well, just lying here admiring the setting sun is lyrically completely reminiscent of the line about at the end of Octopussy, where he sings about, I'm just trying to remember the exact lyric that we've got around, it's just as when, hang on, let me get the lyric. So the relevant lyric in Octopussy, the last verse is, we don't have to do anything except the watch leaves turning in the wind. We don't have to go anywhere. Let's just sit here and talk about the usual things. The idea that you've got 2 people that are together, intertwined, just doing the stuff that people do, just talking about things and stuff and weather and television and all that type of thing. And somehow that's the form of intimacy that transcends all other forms of intimacy, is that moment of just complete kind of social integration. And that's where the lyric for Santa Monica is really reminiscent to me of Octopussy. And that brings the album to a close absolutely perfectly at the moment where you're just just sitting here talking about the same old usual things, and how that works is really, calls back completely to Sea Monsters. And it's wonderful. So in conclusion, by the way, although I spent 40 minutes telling you about how wonderful Going is, Going is fucking wonderful. You should own it. You should buy it. I love this record. It's really bloody brilliant. Of course, as is wedding present tradition, as soon as the band recorded it, the lineup changed. So they went on tour with a new lineup. Daniel Wadey moved to bass. From previously playing some keyboards and stuff in Cinerama. A new guitarist called Marcus Kang joined the group, who was only with the band for a year or so. But it was a busy time, and despite what rumour might have, this lineup did release the Home Internationals EP, which was released and first sold at the Primavera Festival in Barcelona in 2017 on a special label from Spain. Had a CD release, and it had the 12-inch version as well. This features 4 instrumental tracks, featuring Wales, of course, from the album, plus the tracks Scotland, Northern Ireland, and England. And the track England, by the way, features vocals from the poet laureate. I think his name is Stuart Armitage, and Simon Armitage. Sorry, alongside Samuel Beer Pierce playing guitar and piano on Wales, and the other members of the band. Actually, Patrick Alexander and Daniel Wadey are on this. So, yeah, it's a great little EP. It follows on from the 4 instrumental tracks that we've got that open the album Going. But this time these are themed around nations. And the only track that's a repeat is effectively Wales, which again features a Welsh language vocal. This one I think might be quite difficult to get, but again, the Wedding Present aren't a huge band these days. They don't sell a huge number of copies. If you want to own something, you pretty much have to buy it when it comes out, because there's no guarantee that there'll be a repressing of it. But no, Home Internationals is an EP which may have missed your attention, and that's not a criticism of you. The band are busy and prolific. Now, around about this time, they also released in 2017. The band released and toured the re-recording of George Best 30. Although this was recorded in 2007, it was mixed for release in 2017. I think the tapes sat underneath one of my Facebook friends' kids' bed, actually, for a while. That's what I was told, and of course, I believe ye. And then we had 2017 to mark the 30th anniversary of George Best. The band released this re-recorded and a properly recorded version of the album with actual live drums as opposed to electronic drums on it. 2017 also saw the release of, or more correctly, the recording of the live 2017 Part 2 recording, which is to say there is a live 2017 Part 1 which hasn't yet been released, which is the band performing Going live in full with additional musicians and projections. This is the second show which was recorded at Leeds, the last time that the band performed the George Best album in full, and I think the last time that particular lineup of the band with Daniel and Marcus performed live. So this is a CD and a DVD release. Around about this time, the band also released a number of radio sessions as a studio album. So of course not really nobody, but singles weren't really a thing. So instead of singles, you got radio session albums. The Mark Riley Sessions Volume 1, this was recorded in 2007 and 2008 and 2010, featuring songs from George Best and Valentina and El Rey. This one, Sessions 2, was recorded on 2012, 13 and 14. This is the first time that songs from Going were performed on the radio. So two Bridges, Bird's Nest and Little Silver. The last track on there, Little Silver, is the first time that I had a studio recording of it. I wore that MP3 out. If you can wear an MP3 out, that's what I did. Then we had Mark Riley Sessions Volume 3. And Mark Riley Sessions Volume 3 recorded in 2015 and 2016, featuring debut performances, or debut releases actually, for 1000 Fahrenheit, as well as 10 Sleep, Broken Bow, the cover version of You Only Live Twice from the James Bond album, and then on side 2, the session from 2016 featuring Rachel Bear, Jumper Cloud, of all things, Kill Devil Hills, and a studio recording of the original live arrangement of Santa Monica. Post the release of the album came Mark Riley Sessions Volume 4, which was recorded 2017 and 2018, and this features Scotland 56, Fordland, Bewitched with an orchestra, the most incredible version of Bewitched, I should point out, as well as Go Out and Get 'Em Boy, Panama, Getting Nowhere Fast, Felicity, and Jump In, The Water's Fine. So these are the first album releases, the Mark Riley Sessions Volume 4, the first LP releases of Panama and Jump In, The Water's Fine. And Jump In, The Water's Fine was the single that was released a couple of years after the release of the Going Going album, the first album, or more correctly, the first songs from the post Going Going period. There was also 2018 saw the release of Tommy, a re-recorded version of the Tommy album, recorded as a new studio record in February-ish 2018. This is the blue vinyl version that you could only get from indie record stores. Love a bit of vinyl, me, as you probably noticed there. Oh, isn't that nice? Lovely shady blue. But it sounds actually, instead of the original version of Tommy, which was a compilation of singles, this sounded like a genuine studio album and was arranged as such. And this features Danielle, who was on guitar and backing vocals, Terry DeCastro back with the band for a period of time on bass and backing vocals. And then that was sold in 2019. We also had, from the same sessions, the Wedding Present and Cinerama split single, featuring a cover version of the Clash's White Riot and ABBA's The Name of the Game. So a fairly busy period of time before we got to the release of the first post Going Going new studio single. What I haven't mentioned, and I absolutely should do, so I'm going to do it now, is there is a deluxe edition of Going Going that features 2 or 3 discs, depending upon where you buy it from. The second disc of Going Going features additional audio tracks, and it features a piano version of Bells, a piano version or an acoustic version of Broken Bow, and an acoustic version of Rachel, a piano version of Little Silver, alongside a session version of 10 Sleep, Broken Bow, and live versions of Two Bridges and Bird's Nest on an 8-track CD that comes with that. If you bought vinyl version of Going Going from the band's web store, you've got a very, very tasty package here. So you had effectively you had a postcard from one of the locations that the band went on when they travelled and did the films for the release. You had a booklet that came with it. You had the 2 CDs. This one here is the DVD version of the album, and you had the CD as well. And you had a 7-inch single with 4 of those songs on. So this features the Bells, Broken Bow, Rachel, and one other song, which I can't remember what it is. Little Silver, the piano version on there. So alternate studio versions of 4 tracks from the album. If you want to shake up your listening experience of Going Going, you can replace out your standard LP versions with the different versions that are on there. There's also, of course, the 2 vinyl discs on the double LP, and I spend at least once a summer I put this record on. I listen to it in the sunshine in the garden whilst I read a book, and I think about how lucky I am, because I know I am, and I'm not going to pretend for a second that I'm not, because I know it. That is Going Going. It's absolutely one of my completely favourite Wedding Present albums. I think it's strong, it's brilliant, it's really meaningful to me as a listener, and I absolutely rate it. If you don't own this, at least give it a listen if you like the Wedding Present, because you might have your mind blown by just how fucking great it is. Of course, if you don't like them, there's no point you watching this. There's no point you listening to it. But of course, we are all different people with different opinions. Life would be boring if we all like Take That. I mean, life's often boring anyway, but can it be boring for different reasons? Is probably my answer to that. There was also, to go alongside the release of Going, there was also a little black book, which was an expanded lyric book. I think you can still buy this, which features photographs that were taken during the band's period of travelling around doing the films and the recording, the arrangements for the songs, handwritten versions of the lyrics, photographs, and really kind of works as an expanded, almost deluxe edition of the packaging, except it's just sold on its own as kind of like an experience. And if you want to listen to the album and then go through and read this and see the pictures as you go through, it's quite a rewarding experience, actually. It's a complete work of art, and I think Going is enhanced as a result of that. But unlike Valentina, the book that goes with Valentina, this one doesn't provide you with a download. This is just a textual accompaniment that goes to it. Next episode, I talk about the wedding presents. I will talk about the singles Jump In, The Water's Fine, and Panama, and Don't Ask Me, and the David Gedge solo single Mr. Kiss Kiss Bang Bang by Sleeper featuring David Gedge, and some other bits and bobs as well relating to that. But I think 51 minutes is enough of me nattering, so I'm going to wrap up here. Thank you for watching this. Take care of yourselves and each other. Stay beautiful, and I will see you. I'll probably do one of these on Sunday or Monday next week, and then that will be that for about a week and a half. But hopefully I will see you again in the next few days. Stay beautiful and see you soon. Okay, bye.